Hello, boils and ghouls, and everyone creepy in between. This is another episode of the Average Ghost Mom podcast. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So, this episode is coming out on the Sunday of the week of Halloween. And I tell you what, y'all, I am so freaking pumped. Um, this is the first year that Ava doesn't want to go trick-or-treating, and on one hand, I I get why, and I do kind of feel bad, but on the other hand, I'm not upset. I feel bad because I understand her dilemma and the fact that we choose to not consume artificial dyes like as much as possible. And she is correct. There's a lot of candy that she probably wouldn't be able to have if she went trick-or-treating. And so I feel bad that she's choosing not to do that because of like the rules that we have in our house. But equally as someone, I don't want to walk around all night in the cold. So, oh, just bundle up. Okay, but I'm throwing a really fun Halloween party, so you guys can just F off. Okay? I'm excited to throw a Halloween party. I have learned I love throwing parties. It is so fun to plan, especially like kids' parties, because you get to plan activities and stuff. And I have Halloween bingo, and I'm gonna have like a freeze dance party, and we're gonna have movies. So this is what I've decided. We're doing a pizza in the shape of a ghost. I'm doing mummy hot dogs, and then I'm doing grilled cheese coffins. Grilled cheese is cut in the shape of like coffins. And then she really wanted a cake, a Halloween cake. So I'm gonna do cupcakes, and I got some of that hardening shell, like what you put on ice cream to do a spider web, and I got spider rings, so they're gonna be spider web cupcakes. And then Toll House has made a limited edition cookie, and the sprinkles do not have artificial dyes. They have all natural dyes in them. So we get to have cookies with sprinkles, and it's going to be so awesome. And then I have a whole bunch of like prizes and stuff for bingo and for the freeze dance, and it's going to be really fun. um so yeah. But let's get on with it. So originally, I was going to do like some spooky stories for this episode. I was going to do like some spooky personal stories, like ghost stories, but I went to Reddit and I searched around a little bit and I'm like, I'm just not satisfied with any of these stories. So I was on the phone with my sister and we're taking a vacation here in a few weeks. Um out to Mentone, Alabama, which is like the literal middle of the woods, Alabama. And I told her, I said, do you want to know what the thing I'm absolutely frightened about going out here and camping for a couple days out in the middle of the woods? And she said, what, the bears? I said, no, I am not afraid of any of the things that are alive in the woods. It's all of the cryptids and the mimics and the skinwalkers. Those things I am frightened about with going out into the middle of the woods for a few days. And so then that inspired me I'm going to do a short kind of little cryptids episode today. Um, just a very brief kind of rundown about some of the cryptids that are of Appalachia. Also, do not come at me. I switch back and forth between Appalachia and Appalachia. Actually, I think I might have lied. I think I mainly say Appalachia. And I think Appalachia is the same as Illinois or Illinois. It just depends on how you grew up. That there is no 100% correct way to say Appalachia or Appalachia. And either way, if you say I'm saying it wrong by saying Appalachia, because that's how I'm going to say is Appalachia, you you can go. You can exit the room, okay? You're just gonna have to get over it. I'm sorry. That's just the way it's just going to be today. So, I'm going to give a brief overview of my favorite cryptids. of Appalachia. Because I live in North Alabama, so this is basically like the end of the Appalachian Mountains. See, I go back and forth depending on what word I'm saying. Kind of like pecan and pecan. It's pecan pie, but you make it with pecans. Okay? It's the word following it depends on if I say Appalachia or Appalachia. Because it's the Appalachian Mountains, but it's the Appalachian region. That's You're just gonna have to get over it, people. I'm sorry. So, so I chose six. Um, Let me see. A couple of them I had not heard of, but they real just like the name of the cryptid just really like intrigued me. And I did a little brief short research and the short history, some of them on them. Um, and I just have to say, if any of these things like interest you, if you want me to do like more research in on them and do like a whole episode on them, I can. Like let me know. Or do it yourself, of course, always down for that. I will say, kind of tangenting off for just a second, if you do or if you're in the mood for spooky stories, I listen to three spooky slash murderous um podcasts right now for now. As soon as I get caught up on them though, like I need new content. And I get that I'm listening to like some of the same stuff because there's only so many crimes and spooky things in the world. And so, three different podcasts are going to cover the same thing. But on one of them, I'm completely caught up. The other one, I'm halfway through. And the other one, I've basically just started. So, like, I'm at different points in them. So I forget old cases and stuff. That's why I'm fine with listening to three murderous podcasts is because I forget the details in from one podcast, and so I can re-listen to it. I can refresh in the other two when they get there. But anyway, if you want, like, if you just need like a little pick me up, like, oh, I just want to hear like some spooky stories, um, these podcasts do what are called listener tales or listener stories. And it's where people write in about mainly their own personal ghost stories. But some of them are like, oh, my mom dated Ted Bundy, or like, oh, my dad went to college with X serial killer, or my grandparents were neighbors to Richard Ramirez. And they give like a little story of like, yeah, there was one time that Richard Ramirez babysat my dad because my grandparents were there, was his neighbor. Um, so I like their stories. And if you need a little spooky spook, if you just need like oh, I just want to listen to a spooky spook, but I don't know where to go. If you go to, I think they're all on Spotify. I listen to them on Apple Music, and I know some of them are on YouTube. Um, if you search Two Girls, One Ghost, they have their encounter episodes, and encounters are their version of like listener stories. People write in and they share their stories. So if you want like some personal stories just to listen to at this time of the year, spooky, um, I suggest going to Two Girls, One Ghost, listening to their encounter episodes. I also listen to And That's Why We Drink, and their episodes are listener stories, are the ones with personal stories written in. And then my favorite, like the first one that got, like, this was the first podcast I ever started listening to ever. It's called Morbid, and they have listener tales. So you can search those and you can find like the personal written stories. Again, most of them are ghost stories, which is perfect for the spooky time of the year. And if you just want to listen to some of them while you're like driving to work or like doing the dishes or setting up your Halloween party, they're really good, some of them. I personally don't really get like the heebie-jeebies like in like the gasping shock factor like the hosts do, because usually they'll be reading the stories and they all have two hosts. So one of the hosts will be reading the story while the other one listens, and they'll be like legitimate like, and it's like, okay, I didn't gasp like that, but that's okay. It's still a good story. It's like, ooh, like, could you imagine yourself in that writer's shoes, like going through this experience with ghosts? That'd be crazy. But anyway, also, if you're into spooky things or true crime, just in general, like how most white women are these days, those three podcasts in general are just really good. Morbid, in my opinion, does a really good job about bringing to light and giving the story on the victims. Like they really bring the victims into this. Like the victim is not just a victim, like they were a whole person and here's also their story too. Um, and that's why we drink. They're really funny. I love the banter between the two. Okay, I like the banter between all six of them, but and that's why we drink. One of the hosts does true crime and the other host does ghost stories, but she also does oh no, excuse me, they also do um like they've done I think they've done some cryptids in the past and they do I know right now they're doing like UFO stuff. They're doing oh my gosh, what is the word? Conspiracy theory stuff too. And it's really good when M goes and does research, especially once you get into their episodes where she's on her ADHD, where M is on their ADHD medication, because they put in so much effort and they have so much information, and they're like, I have 5 pages of information. This is gonna have to be a two-part episode. It's so good. I don't even think I might be a year, not even quite a year, maybe a whole year. I don't know, on Two Girls, One Ghost. So I'm still in like 2018 right now on Two Girls, One Ghost. So I'm getting there. But no, I really like all of them. So if you're looking for a new episode and you enjoy the true crime and the spooky stuff, I suggest any one of those three if you aren't already listening to them, because I know they're all like top 50, top 10 podcasts for their genre of podcasts. So, anyway, I guess that's enough about me rambling not about cryptids. We should probably get on to the cryptids that I looked into a little bit. So, the first one I did is the infamous and one of my favorites for some reason, the Mothman of West Virginia. Um, Also a fun little fact, in Fallout 76, 76 takes place in West Virginia and they have a Mothman character in the video game. And he is spooky looking. So, the Mothman of West Virginia, specifically of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, he's basically this humanoid creature. Um, there were two couples that were out by a TNT bunker out in West Virginia, who had seen this giant flying thing and said, "Holy cramoly, let me get out of here." One of the people of the couples, of the two couples, described this creature as 7 feet tall, slender, red eyes, and white wings. Um, and it spooked him out like crazy. This was back in the late 1960s. So dates, I mean, I've seen something that was like in 1965, but then like all of these first sighting stories by these two couples are in like November of 1966. Um so as to when it was actually first seen is, like up for grabs, but like I think this is the first notable sighting. Um of someone actually getting like a good description of it. But basically, it's a giant moth furry man, and instead of like some depictions have, instead of arms, he has like giant wings, and some depictions has it he has wings, but he still has like human arms and hands, but he has like a moth head, big eyes, the big antenna kind of thing. I don't think they're called antenna, sue me. Um, and like glowing red eyes. Um, there have been more sightings since these two couples, but kind of the next major one was the Silver Bridge, in which it collapsed and killed 46 people. Some stories say that he was seen around the bridge a day or two before it collapsed, and then that was like a bad omen. And some people say that at the time of the bridge collapsing, people saw the Mothman around. and that he is the cause for the bridge collapsing. So either way, people blame the Silver Bridge collapse. I think it was in 1967. They blame that on the Mothman. Whether he was there at the time or there before, they say it's his fault. Um, a wildlife biologist. Okay, so like every cryptid that people claim they've seen obviously is going to have, oh no, it wasn't this, it was that. Like you saw this natural, everyday, regular creature. So the Mothman people, this biologist is like, okay, that's just a giant sandhill crane. Like you didn't see a giant man with wings, you just saw a rather larger sandhill crane. And because they're not native to this area, like it must have got lost, so you don't normally see sandhill cranes. So that's why to you, you were like, oh my God, this is a human with wings. No, it's a sandhill crane lady. But this is the thing. I grew up in Nebraska, and mm, okay, I think our state bird is a sandhill crane. I could be wrong. It might be a yellow bird. I can't think of what it could be. I can see it in my head. It's yellow and black, but I can't think of what it's called right now. And if it's not that, then it's the sandhill crane is a Nebraska state bird. But either way, like we have sandhills out in West Nebraska, and these sandhill cranes hang out in our sandhills, like we're part of the migratory path. I've seen a red-headed sandhill crane before. Maybe it's just a red sandhill crane. I don't know. They do not look like people in the slightest. They do not like what? No. But okay, whatever. Um, at this time when the Mothman was kind of first stated to have been seen, this was also during the time of the Cold War. It was just kind of getting started and stuff. And also like with the space race with Russia. And so some theories think that this Mothman was kind of born from Cold War fears, because it's also during the time of like, oh, UFOs and aliens and holy moly, and we need to be like looking to the sky to make sure that we're going to be safe from UFOs, aliens, any rocket that Russia sends over to blow us up, and hey, look, a Mothman too, by the way. People think it was just kind of a one-time thing in that people have been since just need another thing to be scared of. Um, just a fun little note. The Mothman Festival is on the third weekend in September in Point Pleasant, West Virginia every year. It's an annual festival. And I kind of looked briefly at the website and it looks like there's a lot of like entertainment and musicians, and I really want to go next year. I don't think, okay, on one hand, I never ever want to step foot in West Virginia ever in my life because so many Appalachian cryptids are seen in West Virginia. Like, West Virginia is like a hot spot for these babies, right? And if I go to West Virginia for a festival, that means I'm going to have to spend the night in West Virginia, and I don't want to be in West Virginia in the night. That's a no-go. That's a no thank you, my Uber's here, I need to go kind of thing. I don't want to be driving through Appalachia in the dark ever, if I can help it at all costs. Not not my favorite thing to do. I mean, I just don't like driving in the dark in general, but like people, I don't think you understand how these roads are in the Appalachian Mountains, okay? I can't explain it other than if you've ever driven through a foresty area in the US, the roads are smaller, the trees are right up against the road and the ditches. There's not much room for error when you're driving, okay? And it's all I can say, it's not like driving through Nebraska. Nebraska has open plains, and it's not trees up against the road. It's like trees out there. It's spotted. It's it's so open you can see everything. Like in the moonlight, you could see a deer prancing through the cornfields in the right season. And you can say, oh, I should slow down in case this deer comes running across the road because I can see it 25, 30 feet away in that cornfield that I'm driving by. Not in the Appalachian forest, Appalachian mountains. Nope. If a deer's gonna jump out in front of you, it's gonna be too late before you see it. That's all I'm saying. I don't like driving at night around here. It's Anyway, moving on. The Wampus cat. That was a new one to me. I had not heard of. And if you know me, I love cats, and so it said cat, and I said, meh, I'm gonna look into that one. So this one's really interesting. This is part of Cherokee mythology. Now, for those of you who are like, Cherokee mythology in the Appalachians, what? The Cherokees live out in Oklahoma. Yes, but no. Cherokees originated in the Appalachian Mountains. Actually, what little research I have done, specifically, it's the lower part of West Virginia and Virginia, and the eastern part of the southeastern part of Kentucky and the eastern part of Tennessee and a little bit of the northeastern part of Alabama and the northwestern part of Georgia is like that area right there was the OG Cherokee area before they got kicked out and sent to Oklahoma. So that's why a lot like this story in particular, but you will also find if you do like look up cryptids in the Appalachian area, that some more will probably be from Cherokee mythology. And that's because they originated there. And so the story stuck. And then, they just have their own Appalachian white man ways because, you know, the white men have to taint Indian, Native American stories, right? So when I first looked at this thing, I said, that is a cougar with extra arms. And then I did a little bit of reading and I learned, no, actually, it's a mountain lion with extra arms. That is the white man version. That is the Appalachian variant is it is a giant mountain lion that has an extra set of like front arms. Not human front arms, it's just an extra set of front mountain lion arms compared to the back legs. Um this thing is described as a green-eyed cat having occult powers. The original Cherokee story is that a woman was spying on a male sacred ceremony, and she had put a mountain lion fur over her as um as a disguise, and she was caught by the men doing this sacred male ceremony, and I think it said that they tossed her into the fire and it turned her into this half woman, half mountain lion creature. Um, so sometimes it's referred to as a beast, sometimes it's referred to as a witch, but that's the original story that I was able to find. Um, it's also referred to as the Wampus Beast or the Cherokee Death Cat. And although stories of this death cat are, of course, they're in Tennessee and Kentucky and Alabama and Georgia, like there's quote sightings of this. There's also sightings of this creature in Arkansas and Mississippi, probably because the Cherokee have had to, quote, migrate over to Oklahoma and they had to go through those areas. I think they had to go through those areas. Please don't quote me on that. And that's why there has, quote, been sightings of this Cherokee death cat in those areas. I was not able to find any like actual stories of this. Like how there's news articles written about the Mothman. I was not able to find anything written about the Wampus cat. Um, so it's just kind of been mythological stories. Um, Oh, that's what it was. There's also speculation that the phrase cattywampus comes from the wampus cat. because it's cattywampus is like, oh, this is crazy, it's unexplainable. Just when like, what, like I grew up with the term cattywampus, like, oh, it just gets going and then it gets going too much and then just goes cattywampus, or like, oh, this thing isn't working anymore, it just went cattywampus on me. So there's a little bit on that. The next one I have is the Flatwoods Monster. This one is also in Fallout 76, but let me tell you, the character that Bethesda made as the Flatwoods Monster for Fallout 76 looks nothing like the actual Flatwoods Monster of West Virginia. Um, the one in Fallout looks like a weird, floating version of like Mr. Freeze, a purple version of Mr. Freeze from the Batman series. Um, and that looks nothing like the Flatwoods monster that I'm about to tell you about. I've actually never seen the Flatwoods Monster until I Googled it today, and I said, holy hell. The picture over here, that one's scary. The plushie over there, that one's cute. I want a plushie. So I have a Mothman plushie, so I would like to get a Flatwoods Monster plushie also, because the plushie version of that is really cute. But y'all, this thing looks terrifying. Dude, I'm not even kidding you. If I were to see this Flatwoods Monster, like if while I'm out there in Mentone, Alabama, and I open up the curtains and I see this thing staring back at me, I might shit my pants and die right there. Close the window, shit my pants, fall down, collapse because my heart has given out. Oh my goodness, this would be terrifying. If this would be terrifying. Listen to this. So first of all, this thing is called the Flatwoods Monster. It's also called the Braxton County Monster, Braxy, and the Phantom of Flatwoods. So Flatwoods is the town in Braxton County, West Virginia. I could I could not. I promise you guys, I could not. So this thing, okay, my first impression of this thing, it looks like a pawn piece, like in chess. Like, you know how like some chess boards have like fun themes to them? I'm like, whatever this theme is, it looks like a pawn chess piece. It looks like an ace of spades pawn chess piece. That's what this thing looks like. So this is like another humanoid kind of creature. It stands about 10 feet tall. It has a round red face, and it kind of has like a red kind of hood that comes to a point. Um, it has orange glowing eyes, and its body is like a dark green, kind of like a cloak, kind of. And it has small claw hands and generally comes with a pungent, odorous mist. Y'all, I'm not kidding you. If this thing emerged from the woods and I saw this glowing red ace of spades top on a green cloaked body with claws, and it was 10 feet tall. My boyfriend is only like 6'1", okay? This thing has 4 feet on him. Me? On me? I'm like 5'6", y'all, okay? This thing is almost twice as tall as me. I'm not doing any damage on this thing, ever, at any point of time. Nada, okay? I would be deceased if I saw this thing come out of the woods towards our cabin that we're staying in. I couldn't. Um, so basically in 1952, these kids saw a bright thing in the sky and said, "Oh, let's go check that out." And they went up to this hill, and on top of this hill was this thing that just appeared from a quote UFO ship. And they said, "Excuse me?" And one of them had a flashlight, and the thing noticed it because the kids had a flashlight, and it glided down the hill and hissed at them. And they said, "Nope, gotta go." Like, they were out of there. Some of the kids had from that pungent gas they think they have theories about. Some of the kids had some lasting nausea effect and a couple other things that lasted like a couple days after the sighting. Um, yeah, no. Um, there were a couple other sightings after this first major one. Like there were some girls out in the woods and they saw possibly this thing way out in the distance and they ran away from it. And there was a I think there was like a hunter in the woods later and he saw like this quick thing run by or whatever. So, but that was kind of it. It was kind of really mainly just like this one major sighting, and then they really haven't heard anything else. They haven't seen anything else about it. Um, this one definitely people are like, that's a UFO. That's totally an alien that you just saw. And there has been people have claimed, yeah, this area on top of the hill definitely had a UFO land on it. You can tell by the circular pattern on top of the hill of all this grass laying down. So people are pretty convinced that this was an alien, but other people, like that wildlife biologist for the Mothman, someone like him says gliding and hissing, y'all saw an owl. Yep, that's it. The big glowing eyes, ooh. And it was just kind of an optical illusion with the gliding because owls can glide when they take off and they glide down the hill. Now, yes, owls can hiss, um but I don't know, like the kids were like, no, this thing had like a green mechanical body cloak. No, I can see the clawed hands being like the talons of the owl, but why what's with the red going on? What's with the red? How does an owl have red above its head? It doesn't. It doesn't. So, you guys take this as you will. Take it for what you want. I'm just giving you what I found. But you should go look up an image. You should like pause right now and just search Flatwoods, one word, Flatwoods monster, and just look at it. The real looking pictures, like the drawn pictures, spooky. The plush, cute. I love it. Next we have the Bell Witch. Now, I have heard a couple stories on the Bell Witch from my podcast that I listen to, and I don't know, just something about it, just like, yeah, I like it. Like, I could listen to this story like once a month and be fine? Um, so the Bell Witch is in Tennessee. And there was a time when I went to Tennessee to visit somebody and I was so close to the Bell Witch house. Oh my gosh, it was just like a short little drive away from where I was and I was like, "Oh my God, I could go to this." But I didn't. We had other things to do, like putt-putt. But basically, from 1817 to 1821, the Bell House, which I think was in Adams, Tennessee, just off the river, John Bell, the dad, was the man of the house, and he had his wife Lucy, and they had, I think, one or two boys, and they had maybe one or two daughters. I only remember reading about one son and one daughter, but I'm pretty sure in previous stories they had like 4 or 6 kids. I'm pretty sure they had more than two. Um, the they were living in this house doing their thing, and Betsy, the youngest daughter, said, "I'm going to marry this man." And the people were like, "Oh, okay, sure." But, quote, suddenly out of nowhere, um, this witch started this ghost, this entity, this spirit, this witch did not like that decision. Um, and so at first, this entity, we'll call her, could speak, shapeshift, and be in multiple places at once. Um, And what kind of happened was she was like, I am engaged to this man. And then one night, John Bell was outside and he saw a dog like creature. He shot it and it disappeared. And then that's kind of like when all this stuff started happening. There was knocking on like walls, bedposts, doors. There was gnawing. There was chains sound like they're dragging across the floor. And then eventually it ramped up and got physical with like pinching, slapping, pulling Betsy's hair. It seemed like a lot of the activity going on was geared towards Betsy and John Bell, her dad. Um, why was that? Don't know. Was it a hoax? Did somebody just not like Betsy's engagement, who was a physical, actual person, but blaming it on all these things? I don't know. Maybe because this little Bell witch really liked Lucy, John's wife, and was like, yeah, no, Lucy, she's cool. She is the most beautiful thing to ever walk this earth. But John, I don't like you. Betsy, you're a hoe. I don't like this man. He's not good. So I'm fucking you guys up. Because I would assume John Bell probably like approved of the engagement, you know? It seems very 1800s of that, right? Um, so the Bell family, they were going through all this stuff at home, and they're having restless nights because the beds would shake, and there would be all this knocking and all the chains dragging, keeping them awake at night. And they're like, "Oh my God, like, are we going insane? Like, surely we're not going insane. Surely this is actually happening." So the Bell family had a friend come over. Um, this guy's name was James. He came over, he experienced his stuff, and he said, y'all are haunted. Y'all are crazy for staying in this house. Y'all are haunted. Y'all need to do something about this. Um, but actually a couple more people came too. They had, like they word of mouth got around that the Bell house was haunted or whatever. And people were like, yeah, right. And so, like, that's what this James guy came over. He was like, yeah, right. And the thing that really told James that this is for realsies is the Bell Witch, because one of her things was she can be in multiple places at the same time. The Bell Witch, James was like, where's your proof? Basically, I feel like some of these people who came over were kind of like Zach Baggins, and they were like, hey, ghost, what's up? Come fuck with me. Like, I'll fight you. And this ghost, I don't know if she just knew or if she, quote, went to James's grandmother's house and then came back or whatever. But James was like, where's your proof? How do I know you're real? And the witch, because she was talking, like she was not there in person, but she was spiritually speaking to people in the house. And James asked a question. Oh, yeah, if you're so real, well, in this situation, what would my grandma say? And the witch mimicked his grandmother's voice and gave like a legitimate answer. Like she like knew, oh yeah, your grandma? I know that hoe. And here's what she would say. And boom. And then James was like, oh, ooh, y'all got a real one on your hands. Good luck. And so that's kind of like what happened with these other people who would come. As they would come, they'd be like, hey, what's good? Prove yourself. And then the witch would talk to them in a voice that they recognized of someone, how, like the Bell family could not possibly know this family member, could not remake their voice, nor would they have their tone and inflection down and know what they would say. One of the pieces of proof that they have is this witch restated a sermon from a church that was 13 miles away. I think maybe probably the pastor or somebody from the church that day came to the Bell house and was like, yo, let me see proof of this witch. And the witch said, what's good? I know you went to church 13 miles away, and I know the Bell family wasn't there because they don't go to that church. And here's the sermon that was said. And she restated it. And then this person was like, holy cannoli, you got a real one on your hands. Um, the Bell family did not know what to do about this apparently. And it just persisted until the witch poisoned John and it killed him. And at that point, Betsy was like, "You know what? to hell with this engagement and cut things off with her boo thing apparently, and then it stopped. And then I read something that it like came back like 7-ish, somewhere around that, like 5, 7, or 10 years later and did something, but I didn't write that down. I didn't have enough piece of paper, if we're being honest. But that was a terribly brief story of the Bell Witch. Um, Either Morbid or And That's Why We Drink did a way better story on the Bell Witch, and I really loved that episode. That was one of my favorites of the Bell Witch. And again, that was in Tennessee, still in Appalachia, but that was in Tennessee. So next, ooh, this was one I hadn't heard of either. Well, okay, I have but haven't. So I did the sheep squatch of West Virginia. Now, sheep squatch, I hadn't heard of. White thing, I have heard of. This is the sheep squatch, like Sasquatch, the sheep squatch, or also known as the white thing. I've heard of the white thing. Now granted, I thought the white thing was a different thing, but I also think that there's so many stories and there's slightly different versions of everything. So the white thing that I know could probably be the same thing as this, just a slightly different geographical area. So that's why it's kind of a little different because word of mouth and mythologies like this and mythical stories, not mythologies, mythical stories can get a little jibber jabber, a little mixed up down the road. Um, the sheep squatch I read was also in Fallout 76. It was in one of the updates um that they had. So it wasn't in the original one when it came out, but later they put it in. Um so this is the sheep squatch or the white thing of West Virginia. It is described to be 4 times the size of a bear, has white wool-like fur, has a long head like a dog, and it has goat horns. It has paw-like hands, kind of like a raccoon, and a long hairless tail like a possum. So originally, oh, and it smells bad, like sulfur. It smells like shit, like sulfur, which demons smell like sulfur too, so makes me a little interesting that specifically it smells like sulfur, but do with that what you will. Um, but when I had first was starting to read this, I'm like, oh, so it's just basically a ram's head on top of a bear's body with paw hands. And then it said the long hairless tail, and I was like, okay, that's kind of gross. Could we not have just given it a bear's tail? Like, that would have been fine. That would have been cute. But this possum-like tail on a thing like that? I don't know. I don't know. Um, this thing has some of its first sightings also by a TNT bunker, but this one is in Mason County, West Virginia. So this thing was also, quote, seen by a TNT bunker like the Mothman was seen by a TNT bunker. So that's what's going on in these dynamite bunkers, huh? What are we doing? So the first recorded sighting was back in 1994. A Navy man was doing his thing out and about in the woods. I think he was probably like home and he was just living his life and he's among the woods. And this thing came to the edge of the forest and was drinking some water and then got up and walked away basically. It was just a normal, average, everyday kind of sighting. Non-violent. The thing came, it drank, it went on its merry way. And this man was like, "Holy fucking shit. That just happened." Later in that same year, two kids were out playing in the woods and this thing appeared and just ran past them basically. It came into the opening where they were playing. They said, "What?" And this thing said, "What?" And this thing went off running. And it was breaking, large branches off the trees because of how big it was. And the kids were like, "Whoa." Um, in 1995, a couple was driving through West Virginia I think it said Boone County, West Virginia. And this thing was just sitting in the ditch. And like any average white people in America, they came to a stop on the road and they got out and they said, "Oh, what?" Because they wanted to see a better image, a better view of this thing, which that's pretty wide of them to do, right? To get out to drive past this thing and say, "That was big. What was that?" Especially at the description of this thing, something that is 4 times the size of a bear basically has a ram's head on it, and this thing's just sitting in the ditch, and they said, "Oh, hold on, let's turn around. Let's go see if we can get a picture with that thing. That'd be so cool to put on the Christmas cards this year." What are these people thinking? So it's sitting in the ditch. These people, reverse. Let's look. What? And they're like, "Holy cannoli. That thing is huge." And unlike the first two sightings, this thing, this sheep squatch, said, "You know what? I've had enough of these fucking people in my fucking face." And it rampaged towards the car. The people get in. As they're getting in and like driving off, the thing was just able to catch them. And they said when they got home, there was large scratch marks on the car from this thing that attacked them. White people these days. Well, those days. These days, but those days. Jeez Louise. Um, the next sighting is in 1990. What year did I write? Oh, 1999. These people were from what I could get, because it wasn't a wholly descriptive story on the setting. It sounds like some people were just like at their house. It was a small gathering of like maybe 4 people, and they were having a bonfire in what I presume would be the backyard. And this thing, let me see. Oh, this thing came through the brush into the opening, and these people were like, "Oh, it's our time to get in the house." They ran in the house as this thing tried to chase them, didn't successfully make it, which, how does something that is 4 times the size of a bear, unless the yard is pretty big and they were pretty close to the house, that's the only thing I could see, like, oh, it didn't get them. But it did tear up their their party site. Not party site, their gathering site. They say the next morning they went out and it was just rampaged through. It was torn up. It was crazy, right? And then so far the last sighting was in crazy 2015. This thing went 16 years without a sighting. And then suddenly these campers out in the middle of the forest, out in the middle of the woods, right? In Virginia also. Not in West Virginia. This one was in Virginia. They noted that uh in the oh in the not the entry, but in the report. It was like midnight when these campers are kind of just, okay, we're settling in for the day. It's midnight. They're just having a grand old time camping out in the middle of the woods, and which I was about to say they're fucking crazy, but I'm basically about to go out and do the same thing. Um, and this thing came into, they were down towards a lake. There was kind of like an opening in the brush, and not a lake, a river, and they were camping down closer to the river. Um, and this thing came down the hill towards them, but they're on the opposite side of the river from the sheep squatch. So they watched as the sheep squatch tried to figure out how to get to them, and they're just watching this thing. And the sheep squatch decides, okay, can't go over it, can't go around it, can't go under it, so I'm gonna have to go through the river. He starts wading in through the river. They said on the report, they said the thing looked at them, gave out kind of like a pitiful wince, turned back and ran. Like said, "You know what? Going through this water tonight ain't worth it." Turned around and ran back into the forest up into the hills. And that was that. They probably looked death in the face, and death said, "You know what? Not worth it right now." And changed its mind. That's Crazy. Could you imagine something 4 times the size of a bear? Okay. Now I get there's plenty of different sizes of bears. You think of grizzly bears, black bears, polar bears. If you're even knowledgeable, a sun bear. I literally take any bear, charge it up 4 times. That's scary. I mean, because sun bears are actually pretty small. They're a bear found in Asia, and polar bears are pretty big. Polar bears could be about 4 times the size of a sun bear. But imagine a freaking polar bear running at you, even if you took the smallest bear in the world, a polar bear, okay? No, I'm sorry. Even if you took the smallest bear in the world, which I know it's not right, but I'm just gonna go with it because it's the only thing I can size this off of, a sun bear. And say that 4 times the size of a sun bear is a polar bear. Imagine a polar bear running towards you, right? Now, let's just take a polar bear, for example, for funsies, or a grizzly bear. Size that up 4 times. That thing, oh my God, it's got to be the size of like an elephant or a rhino. Could you imagine that thing strolling down the hill towards you in the middle of the night, in the middle of the woods? Flight, fight, freeze, or faint. I have always been a freezer. In a situation of life or death, no, I've never been in a life or death situation, but any like high anxiety situation, I've always froze. I'm always like, what do I do? I could not imagine what I would do if I saw death running towards me in the forest. Oh my God. I think again, I would shit myself and then die. That's probably what I would do. Like, my camping buddies, if I was out there, this thing would be running, I'd shit myself and then keel over because my heart would stop working, and my buddies would all be freaking out after this thing left because, oh my God, this thing killed Kristana. Like, not physically. Oh my God, what is that smell? Oh, she shit herself. That's what would happen. That's what would be going down. I could not. Okay. The last one. Oh, okay. The last one. Dude, I like the last one. I don't know why, because it's kind of creepy, but the last one I picked is the knot deer, which are commonly found in Tennessee and West Virginia by some sightings. Now, there's a lot of people out there who are like, knot deer are not real. There is just a deer. Like, but then also people are like, no, I've got proof right here. But every proof I've seen that looks real, that looks like a regular freaking deer. Like, I might have just debunked it for myself, honestly. So, but for those of you who don't know what not deer are, it's a thing that looks like a deer, but not, right? So, you you're like driving down the road and you see a deer on the side of the road and you're like, "Oh, I should slow down in case this thing hops out in front of me," right? But as you're kind of slower driving by, you're looking at the deer, and then there's things that just don't look right. Um, People will say that stuff is anatomically off and behaviorally off. Like, it's just not right. A lot of people will say you get the sense of doom, a dreadful sense of doom, or just that the vibes at that time are off. Some doesn't feel right in the atmosphere. One of the physical features that people say about the deer, the not deer, is that the eyes are on the front of its face rather than on the side of its face. And I've seen one picture of this. It looks really creepy and it looks fake as hell. But that's just my opinion. People say maybe the deer is double jointed, possibly. But they say that the deer has longer limbs than normal, has a more barrel chest, eyes are in the front of his face instead of the side, and that these deer are not afraid of humans. Like, they will straight up walk up to you like, "What up, bro?" Whereas I guess regular deer say, "Oh, humans equal guns, I'm out." You know? People have tried to say this deer just has a disease or just has a deformality. And people have even gone to say that's not a deer at all, that's a kangaroo. A kangaroo. How, a, how, how do you look at something and say, yeah, that looks like a deer. And then you look to your friend next to you and your friend says, no, that's not. That's a kangaroo. What? Have you ever seen a kangaroo? I think you might need to Google what a kangaroo looks like because those do not look anything alike. I don't. Okay, I can understand why the Flatwood Monster looks like an owl. Um, and I can understand why the Mothman would look. People have also said an owl about that, but I would get why they say that it looks like, well, I don't know, Sandhill Crane, I don't quite think I can get behind. But some people have said, oh, the Mothman in the sky. And people are like, that's an owl carrying a log. Are you crazy? So I can get the Mothman looking like an owl. I can get maybe the Flatwoods Monster looking like an owl. I cannot get that a not deer is a kangaroo. I cannot get behind that. It's not something I support. um, there's a lot of stories apparently on Tumblr and Reddit. I just googled it on I googled it on TikTok. What the hell? I searched it on TikTok and I went down a short little rabbit hole of videos and I don't know. I don't really think I can get behind the not deer, you know? The people who have said, "Oh, here's a video of a not deer." I don't really think I can get behind those. But either way, oh, there's a video out there of a deer basically that looks like its neck is broken and it's still living. And I'm pretty sure that's been on debunked where like the neck bones are broken, but the nervous system and the brain cord, the spinal cord were not broken. So the deer is still able to live. Like broken neck does not equal dying all the time. Like if certain parts of the neck are broken, like that's fine. But as long as like the nervous system and the brain system or whatever is still intact in one piece and not too terribly mangled, then the thing is gonna live, you know? So I feel like that's been debunked. If it hasn't been already, then look, boom, I just debunked it. Boom, fake. So anyway, you can just look, if cryptids is something you're into, I would highly suggest go down that rabbit hole. Cryptids are so fun to read their stories about and to just kind of know their lore because it's always like, ooh, is it real? Is it not? Nobody knows. Oh, I'm not crazy. I love cryptids. They're so fun. It's kind of like Santa. It's kind of like Santa and the Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy almost, but not quite. Anyway, that's all that I've got. Look, look, I just Googled popular or famous Appalachian cryptids. There's cryptids, really, there's cryptids anywhere, but I'm sure Appalachia, I'm sure Ozark Mountains, Rocky Mountains, what's the not what is it, the Navajo Desert out there, Arizona, Nevada? They have, okay, if you I wasn't going to say this on, oh wait, did I already say it? I don't know. I can't remember. I might have already said it, but if you have a specific religion that's against SWs, skip ahead a few 10 seconds or 30 seconds, okay? Because I'm going to say the word. And I know some religions take this very seriously, as to not even, don't even say the word. I'm going to say it, so you better fast forward. If you haven't already, 3, 2, 1, skinwalkers, okay? Skinwalkers are creepy and mimics are creepy. But we're gonna continue to say SWs. Um, some religions take that very seriously, and it's not like churchy religions, it's not like Christian religions. It's more of Native American religions take that very seriously. Like don't say the word. Don't even say the word because you say it and it gives it like power and stuff and it could bring those things to your home if you're even just like listening to something like a podcast, could bring it to your area, could attract them. So we like I try to be respectful. That's one thing that I just happen to know of like I should not say that word. And so I'm not going to completely say the word. Just say SWs. But they've got SWs out in Appalachia, but they also have SWs out in the desert that's at the base of the Rocky Mountains going south. That stuff is crazy, dude. So, either way, if that's your stuff, bro, you should do some Googling. And if that's your stuff, and you want me to do more, please let me know. Like, I'm eventually one day I'm gonna run out of things to talk about. Um, and so for you guys to let me know what you want me to do more of or what you want to hear more of, let me know, because that helps me, helps you, right? Anyway, um, it's probably my bedtime right now, so I think I need to go. But we'll talk to you later, guys, all right? And bye.